Hey guys, I'm Mike King, and you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up, the bi-monthly drunk movie review podcast, the semi-weekly drunk movie review podcast, the occasional drunk movie... None of these are as catchy as our old tagline, but you get the idea. Anyway, our hiatus is over and we're back for another season. I don't want to waste any more of your time with announcements or advertisements, and also we don't have any this week. Anything you're looking for, you can find at howmanyfingerspodcast.com or on most of our social media pages. Help yourselves for once, damn it. Okay, on with it. This week we're reviewing M. Night Shyamalan's Glass. Enjoy. Welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up, featuring two guys getting Barky Von Schnauzered and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
And thank you to Mike Moserino on Facebook.
Thank you, Mike. I feel like that's a reference to something, and I just don't get it.
Yeah, I have no idea what that's from.
And I feel stupid, and I don't like it. So thanks a lot, Mike. But boy, we're back.
We are. And hey guys, after we finish this season, there's gonna be no more Skype episodes from here on out.
We'll never do Skype again. And they did do Skype again.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I feel like some people will have you believe that fall is like the most busy part of the year, you know, school's starting, it's just a bunch of shit like starting up, but I feel like right after the new year, I feel like shit really starts to pick up. You just come right off a holiday and then people start planning things, then it all piles up every weekend. We really only have the weekends to record these things, so
and for us, you got Oscar season, which is super busy.
Oh yeah. And I mean, did we have the handies out last time we recorded an episode?
I don't know.
I don't think so. The handies are up, guys.
Possibly not. Yeah, they're out there.
Don't watch them on an iPhone.
Don't watch them on any kind of mobile phone unless you have headphones, because our technical luck continues to expire. Apparently, if you watch the Handy Awards on a phone without headphones, or only certain phones, I guess some phones it does work on, but like those phone speakers, that it apparently like YouTube will translate the audio in a weird way based on what it's playing through. I didn't think YouTube was that intelligent,
right? Yeah,
but for some reason it tries to like convert the stereo signals of the Handy Awards into mono, and it like ends up where like all the vocals are just not there. It's like the echo of the vocals, and it's just all sound effects. So, I mean, if you want to watch them on a phone and see what that's like, it's interesting for sure. But definitely check them out with laptop speakers or computer speakers or headphones or anything but just a regular old phone, because I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't happening for everybody. I mean, I had a lot of people that came up to me and said how much they liked the handies. And I was like, did you guys watch it on an iPhone? And they were like, yeah.
Came up to you where? Like in the street?
No, just...
You're getting accosted in the grocery store.
I love the
Hey, it's Joseph Lomas from the Handy Awards.
I'm one of the under 100 people that watched it. I think it's actually over. I wouldn't bet on it. But no, I was just at like a party where previous guest of the handies and everything, the podcast were there. Just people who were familiar. And just were just like, oh, hey, saw it. It was really cool. And then I like felt like I really preemptively was like, but did the audio, was that bad? And they were like,
but how cool was the audio?
And they were like, no, nothing was wrong with that. And then I feel like I really messed up that conversation, you know? But yeah, let's get into some let's drink a Frou Bruges.
He wasn't really drunk. He just had a Frou Bruce.
Unbreakable. What you thought? They call me Mr. Glass.
Were you waiting to recite that?
No, but every time I hear it, I don't know.
So what are you drinking, Joe?
I have a single can of 21st Amendment Brewery's Brew Free or Die Blood Orange IPA.
Oh, nice. How was it?
I
feel like I've had that before.
I'm gonna open.
Sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah, I think I've only had their whatever we've had on the podcast, like their watermelon kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Big into fruits. Those 21st Amendment Brewing Company people.
Well, it's good for you. It's healthy.
I'll have to tell my doctor I'm getting my...
You're doing your body good right now.
Yeah, I actually had a blood orange
you better
earlier
drink 20
today.
of those.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah,
What
I'm
are you
really
drinking?
healthy. I have like 30 blood orange IPAs a day. I bought a variety pack from Victory Brewing Company.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm finishing up a homegrown dry hopped lager.
Okay.
And then I'm going to transition into, what is this one? Golden Monkey Belgian style triple with added spice.
Really getting that.
They're pretty good.
Really getting that like kind of like bitter fruit taste from this. I mean, I guess just from, like a blood orange kind of grapefruit flavor. It has that like really high acidic bitter taste. Yeah, how do those taste though?
They're pretty good. I mean, I haven't gotten into the second one yet, but the first one's pretty good. I think Victory does solid beers.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I feel like they might have been bought by somebody bigger. I can't see it on the can. Maybe they are still independent. Anyway, not important. They just remind me of like a Goose Island or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, let's talk about Glass.
That glass.
I guess I'll read the IMDb description, and then I believe you've got some notes.
Yeah.
All right. Security guard David Dunn uses his I fucked it up, Dad. I'm sorry. Security guard David Dunn uses his supernatural abilities to track Kevin Wendell Crumb, a disturbed man who has 24 personalities. I like how this like does not mention like it's making me question whether I copied the right description because it mentions nothing about the title character.
Right, yeah.
But no, yeah, this is the IMDb description for Glass.
Yeah, that's like I wrote this down and I just feel dumb saying it out loud. And that was like the defense I was going to come to with this IMDb description. I was going to be like, well, maybe they don't want spoilers or whatever. And this sounds stupid, but we're about to spoil the movies Unbreakable and Split. It's just this whole trilogy is kind of a weird. Even saying it's a trilogy is kind of a spoiler.
Yeah,
it's just a weird. I don't know, movie terrain to navigate or cinematic terrain.
Well, I mean, I guess that technically the trailer for this spoils.
Yeah.
Split.
Yeah.
I don't know that any of it necessarily spoils Glass. Or not Glass. Unbreakable.
Unbreakable. Yeah, that's true. Very true. I'm sorry?
I didn't say anything, Dad.
I think I got a Skype glitch and it just sounded like you were like, well, and I was like, yeah.
Oh, Mike's going to go off on a tear here.
Mike's about to make a really big point. I better listen up. And then he just paused for a really long time. I thought he was collecting his thoughts.
All right.
Boy.
What do you got?
Okay. Well, I got. Don't mind me, just
pulling them up.
Just navigating some. No, I mean, Glass was directed by M. Night Shyamalan. I was just pulling up what he's directed, even though I'm sure we'll talk about at least one of these, at least all of these, one time. but he's directed The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs, The Village, Lady in the Water, The Happening, The Last Airbender, After Earth, The Visit, and Split. I keep seeing local casting companies. Ooh, carbonation hit me. I keep seeing local casting companies casting for a new M. Night Shyamalan project too, that they're obviously shooting around the Philadelphia area where I live. And it's called, I don't know if it's, you know how they use like fake titles sometimes?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is one of those or it's just a weird title, but it's called Crumpet or something. And I don't even think
like a mischievous elf.
Yes. M. Night Shyamalan's Crumpet.
Hide your shoes.
I don't even think it's like. I don't even think
Crumpet,
it's like.
no. It's like he just completely goes into like slasher horror now.
Yeah.
Like 90s slasher horror.
I don't even know if it's a movie though. I think I've heard something that it's like a series, and I think maybe it's for that new Apple streaming service that I think is going to be announced pretty soon. I don't know. Just through some of the casting stuff, I've just seen like that the plot somehow involves like a nanny, and I think Rupert Grint is attached to it, and his house elf Crumpet. Oh man, and then I was actually just reading they have announced Labor of Love. Oh wait, is that no, yeah, he's directing it too. And it's so weird. It's just storyline. A widower embarks on a cross-country trip on foot to prove his love for his late wife. And then it says, "Did you know?" Under the film trivia on IMDb, it says, "The film was originally pitched with Denzel Washington as the lead. However, Washington withdrew from the role in order to perform in A Raisin in the Sun on Broadway and was subsequently replaced by Bruce Willis." Just like such a bizarre casting turn. Which, I mean, even in this movie, you can tell like Bruce Willis is kind of just like not. You can tell he like likes M. Night Shyamalan. He's like, yeah, sure, I'll be in it.
Yeah.
But he's like kind of, you have to grade him on a curve of just like how much he's actually caring about what projects he's involved in at this point. Because I don't know. But real quick, I'll just go through. I feel like last time we did, when we reviewed Split, I went through a whole M. Night Shyamalan thing. And there's like a few updates just to give this, just to contextualize this movie or whatever. And just M. Night Shyamalan's background and everything. I think Split was actually the first episode of a season 2 years ago.
Yeah, with Jordan Weinrich.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
Yeah, I'm looking at like his filmography right now, and just the year Split is weird. Because I didn't even mean that to be... just the split between the years is weird, because it's 2016 was when Split came out.
Oh, yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. And this is 2019.
But yeah, I talk about M. Night, I mean, again, because he's a local dude. I feel like I kind of follow him closely. But yeah, I went on at length about him last episode. You know, just kind of how we were kind of watching one of the kind of like greatest comebacks in Hollywood history. You know, he was in director's jail after The Happening and The Last Airbender, which were both just very terrible movies. You know, After Earth was pretty bad, but it also felt like a part of his comeback because he had to like direct somebody else's script. It just seemed like it was something for a paycheck. And then The Visit, he self-financed for I think like $5 million.
I think he actually wrote After Earth.
Really?
Co-written with Gary Whitta and Will Smith.
Oh, true. Well, I mean, still, I'm sure I think everything else.
Yeah,
he
I mean,
writes,
he usually writes.
He writes
alone,
by himself. Kind of. I mean, yeah, I'm sure he had some sort of input, but I'm sure that like also wasn't like exactly what he wanted to do at that time. You know?
Yeah.
That wasn't on his like trajectory that he envisioned. But after that, there was The Visit, which he self-financed for, again, I don't know, I think it's like roughly $5 million. So he shot it, he spent the $5 million, and then he started shopping it around, and everyone was like turning him down. And I was reading in an interview, he was like, oh shit, is like my career over? And then he had a meeting with Jason Blum of Blumhouse, who produced it, and then it made $98 million worldwide. And then again, he did the same thing with Split, where I think he self-financed for $9 million, and then it made like $278 million worldwide. And again, Split was this like backdoor sequel to Unbreakable. Didn't really...
He self-financed Split as well?
Yes.
Blumhouse didn't give him anything for it?
I don't think so.
Or he just went to them for finance.
I think maybe there's some sort of financial means involved in like, we'll distribute this, we'll do whatever, you know. M. Night would like spend the money to make the movie, and then I don't know. Obviously Jason Blum's getting in on this return, this ROI. And then for this one, I think he also completely self-financed Glass for I think the budget was like $20 million, and I think that all came out of his pocket. And I was even just reading in another interview where he's like, you know, I don't know, my mortgage it might completely change if this movie doesn't do well.
Hey guys, I'm almost at the bottom of my pockets here.
Dad, what are you
and
doing?
These movies are making a decent amount of money.
But yeah,
here's a twist. I don't pay for the next movie.
Well, yeah, and then, I mean, another thing that we'll probably get into is that, I mean, when you're self-financing your movies, you probably have complete creative control, which can also be the downfall of, like, you know, like, did you show this to anybody else? Like, like that kind of thing. But yeah, this movie came out, I think, almost 2 months ago from when we're recording, and it's already made, I think, like $245 million at the box office, so M. Night lives to direct another day.
Yeah. And not by the merit of his movies.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's been a comeback. And, you know, regardless of whether you like any of his movies, I mean, he's come back from director's jail, and he's here again. And again, it was also just kind of like, you know, Split was marketed as this horror movie, and it ended up being this super villain origin story, and the marketing didn't even really, you know, use the whole like, oh, it's a sequel to Unbreakable, which is kind of like unheard of in marketing and everything.
Yeah,
but it really works. And I mean, just one more thought. I still think the end of Split is like one of the greatest cinematic feelings I've ever like experienced watching a movie. I was so happy that we saw it as soon as it came out, and it wasn't spoiled for me, which is like crazy too. I think we talked about this, but I think it was at some film fest, like far before they had a release date. I'm so glad that was kind of kept under wraps. I mean, like, yeah. I've cooled on Split as a whole, and you could probably even convince me that that last scene is kind of gimmicky, but god damn it, it really worked. And I think, I don't know, as of now, I can land on it being like a twist ending that didn't totally redeem and mostly like kind of unengaging film. But man, what a fucking end of a movie. I just was like, it was just totally, I don't know.
Yeah, I remember not being as enthused by the end of the movie, and kind of like feeling like the end of the movie ruined it for me in a little way. I mean, I wasn't crazy about it before that.
Right. I was fucking floored. I was like, what? It was just...
We talk about it at length in the Split review,
right.
Obviously.
Right. But let's talk about this movie Glass, huh?
Yeah. So
what did you think about like going into this, like, or like when they first started promoting this, or you knew that they were making it? What did you have any thoughts on it or the trailers or anything?
Yeah, I wasn't really excited or too interested at all, just because of how bored I was by Split.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really liked Unbreakable. I really obviously like early Shyamalan, and I've been a defender of some movies that people haven't been crazy about of his. Like, I still really like Lady in the Water.
Right.
I like The Village. Signs is one of my favorite movies of all time. It really wasn't until like The Happening and Last Airbender that I fell off with him. But yeah, this didn't seem like it was going to be the movie that was going to win me back to M. Night, based on the trailer.
Yeah.
Just because what was good about Unbreakable for me was that it was technically a superhero movie, but it wasn't like trying to be really at all, and it really was just kind of a kind of slow-paced, quiet family drama that happens to be a superhero origin story.
Right.
And like it's kind of like it focuses more on like the earlier aspects of like superhero origin rather than like, in like, Marvel movies, like there's got to be some like huge climactic showdown, and it gets to like, these big huge set pieces at the end and big redemption, and like most of Unbreakable is like just him trying to like accept the fact that it might be true.
Right.
And he doesn't really like believe it until the end, and that's kind of like the ending of the movie. And it's like still kind of like pretty small stakes. So I always appreciated that about it. And then just not being excited with Split, I was like, well, I'm not really excited for Glass either. I didn't really want this to be a trilogy. And the three of them together just doesn't do much for me. So going into it, not very interested or enthused.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think when I saw, what's it called? I liked the end of Split. I think to have the camera kind of pan down and show David Dunn, is like it's a really bold choice again, because it recontextualized the entire kind of movie into this like supervillain origin story and everything, and well, that's happening in the same universe as something like this is happening. But I don't know. As soon as I heard he was like, and I'm working on Glass right now, I'm like getting started with it, and I was kind of like, okay, and it was just kind of like, and then like I hear about like I'm self-financing it, and like even if it is like twice, like more than twice the budget or whatever, it's still like it's still concerning, because it's like I think I'd want him to like go to like Universal or something. I mean, it's still distributed by Universal. I want him to go somewhere where they're gonna like be like, we're gonna get you whatever you want and you can do this right, kind of. But instead, I think he's just kind of still trusting the process, It's just kind of like when maybe he should just be like, all right, I'm here, I've arrived, I could probably get this made with a big studio.
Yeah.
And obviously I think when I first watched the trailer, I was like, oh yep, it's kind of what I thought it was going to be. It like doesn't look great, and yeah.
And it's also with like Unbreakable and Split, like Unbreakable, like part of the charm and what works for it is that it's like it's trying to buck the superhero trend, although I don't know how much of a trend it was in 2000.
Right.
I guess there were still some 90s superhero movies, but that's like pre-Spider-Man even, which is like kind of the new era of superhero movies. But it was still just like it was a comic book movie that wasn't really giving in to a lot of that and was more focused on character and story. And then Split like is a superhero movie or supervillain movie that doesn't even admit that it is until the last like 5 seconds of the movie, really.
Right.
So I was concerned about how Glass is going to function when it doesn't really have that kind of guise to hide behind of either we're trying not to be a superhero movie or we're not revealing that we're a superhero movie. Like, how is M. Night going to function when it's just all the cards are out on the table, and how do you close out this trilogy? And I didn't really have a whole lot of confidence in that. And I think it just kind of, like, the way that this movie actually turns out proves that it's not easy to make a superhero movie as much as we, like, rip them apart. Like, I mean, this looks just as drab as a lot of, like, the Marvel movies that we criticize, you know, like, for their, like, gray, like, scenes that are in, like, parking lots or warehouses, or, like, dirty, like, urban sprawls with not a whole lot of color going on. There's a lot of this movie that is like that. You know, they try to throw, like, they have, like, the pink room at one point, but for a lot of it, it's just, like, pretty boring colors to me. And then it's just overall, like, a really boring movie, especially compared to a lot of the crappy superhero movies that it seems like it's almost trying to fight against. And to me, that just proves that, like, yeah, it actually does take some semblance of skill to make a shitty superhero movie.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously they're not trying to make a Marvel movie in the same way that, like, Logan's not trying to make, like, a traditional Marvel superhero movie. I mean, obviously this does want to, like, buck against some sort of system. Yeah, and it is also just very different. I mean, the movie pretty much plays out in one location. It plays out like a play. For the most part, I think the acting has to move the story along. I don't think any Marvel movie could ever rely on just that. So, I mean, there's definitely... It has some ups. The movie is pretty unruly. It is pretty clunky. It has a bunch of, like, big ideas that, again, I don't think anyone can stop him from, like, pursuing, because it's self-financed and he's kind of his own boss. But yeah,
I don't even know what, like, how to like fix this movie. I don't know what the, like, idea that he had in his head for this movie that he thought was going to work on screen.
Right.
You know, like, there wasn't really any part of this movie where I was like, oh, there's like a glimmer of hope here, or like the spark of a good idea. Like, it all just seems so ill-informed. It was like, and the fact that it's like the fact that it's the, like, third movie in an unnecessary, like, unnecessary trilogy, like, kind of just, like, makes it more ironic again that it is this sort of, like, B version of superhero movies.
I do think there is,
because it's like, it's all the things that we criticize about superhero movies. And I mean, you are right. Like, I don't think he's trying to, like, be the anti-superhero movie,
right,
or the anti-Marvel superhero movie in any way. But if you're not going to be, like, the antithesis to that or an alternative to that, then you're just going to get compared to it, and it fails in every way. Right.
And what was I going to say? Yeah, it's something where, like, you look at, like, interviews or whatever, and you see that he's talking about, oh, you know, like, right after I finished Unbreakable, you know, I had the idea for this film, kind of. And you're all of a sudden you're kind of like, like, that's why this is so outdated. I think, like, that's a theme we'll keep hitting in this review, at least I will. That, like, how outdated a lot of these ideas are, you know, like, for example, like, I think there's a lot more to say about our society's relationship with superheroes than there was in, like you said, like, in the year 2000. It's kind of weird that, like, M. Night Shyamalan feels like he has to like, explain things to us, like we know what an origin story is, like, you know, like, it's it's 2019. And it was just kind of like, it's okay.
We know.
Yeah. Oh my God, do we know? We've seen 20 of them, and they all take
this
place
year
in the same universe. It feels like he doesn't trust the audience narratively, or, again, this is just outdated. We're in Unbreakable, it was appropriate that it was like, here are some facts about comic books. Like, this many people read them, and, like, this is why, you know, this movie's about this and everything.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. And then like that paired with like M. Night Shyamalan, I don't care. Like he has some of my favorite movies of all time, but his dialogue will always just sound fucking bizarre and unnatural to me. Just like what? Like some of the things that people say in his movies are just like nobody talks like that. Like it's almost a part of like his draw kind of, or like his style.
Yeah,
now,
but he usually knows how to like make it work. Like cause it's very much a part of Unbreakable, but it's just kind of the almost like quirky tone and pacing of that movie, which made it like really likable. Like I think one of the parts that like I always stuck out to me, and it's just because of the strange pacing as a benefit, like is when the like weightlifting scene in the basement of Unbreakable. And just like there's just like those quiet looks that like Bruce Willis and his son give each other. There's like almost like a comedy to it. It's very strange, but it really works. And then like I think there's a lot of that in like Signs as well, like where he uses a lot of like silence after strange things, and a lot of it works in Signs because he'll give a lot of strange lines to like the kids, and like they'll say something and then everyone will just be like kind of quiet, and then like a beat and then a response that's also kind of strange. And just because there's a lot of strange stuff happening, it ends up working in movies like that. Same thing in Sixth Sense, same kind of situations. But yeah, it feels more exposed in a movie like this.
I also think this
I don't know why that is, because I don't know that he's necessarily gotten better or worse at writing dialogue. I just think the context that it's in, and maybe people not fully knowing how to play into his sort of directing style and his writing style. You know, like I think that's part of why Signs is so great, is like he had already had like Sixth Sense and Unbreakable before that to establish that sort of pacing. It's like if you get cast in a Wes Anderson movie and you read a Wes Anderson script, there's so much in his filmography already that you know exactly how he wants you to read those lines, because he's got 20 films where he's had that kind of pacing before. He's not going to like change the style up now. It seems weird that they weren't able to fully deliver that in this movie.
Yeah. And again, to kind of circle back around to like what we were saying earlier, I do think this film has some themes that sets it like apart from, you know, your average superhero movie, or even your superhero movie that's kind of, you know, different or going against the grain. And I think this is an idea that they should have pursued. I don't think this is totally a spoiler or anything, just because it's kind of in the trailers, but when they're all in the pink room or whatever, I think Sarah Paulson's character really starts to kind of try and convince them that you guys aren't superheroes. This is a delusion that you guys suffer from. And it really kind of does take you, I don't know, I kind of wanted it to end that way, like kind of ambiguous, kind of like, are these guys superheroes, or is this just a mental condition? Because like it's not in like this fucking heightened reality like Marvel or almost every other superhero movie is. It's just kind of like, I don't know, these two other guys are like kind of more strong and one guy's smart, you know. It's just kind of like, are they superheroes kind of? And I could have used like one or two more scenes of that with like Bruce Willis even in this cut of the movie, and I would have like really followed that thread if I were to again fix
at the very least. They needed to get to that scene like half an hour earlier. It took so long to get there, and like that's like the only sort of moment that the movie started to pique my interest a little bit, is like the three of them in a room together, and yeah, like you're saying, the idea of her like starting to broach this doubt of like, you know, yeah, maybe you're not as smart as you think, and maybe you're just really strong, and, you know, maybe you've just been lucky in all the situations you've been in, and you're not actually invincible or unbreakable like you think you are.
Right.
Just like the group therapy aspect, I think would have been more interesting rather than like all of them individually, because like the title character is pretending to be I don't know if that's a spoiler. Obviously, he's going to come out of his coma at some point. I think he's talking in the trailer, so it's not really a spoiler. But yeah, like he's in a pretend coma for half the movie. The Split character, Kevin, is just not interesting on his own anymore. Like in the movie Split, like he was at least interesting because it was like creepy and there was tension involved in, because he was the captor and you're like putting yourself in the captive shoes of like, oh man, what would it be like if this guy who kidnapped me has got like multiple personalities and he's switching between them, and some of them want to help me and the other ones want to hurt me, and he keeps talking about the beast, and there's all this mystery to it. And like, as much as I thought that movie didn't have a whole lot of substance and ended up being mostly boring, that was one of the parts that worked about it half the time. And now it's just completely gone, because now it's just James McAvoy like doing different personalities, like just to show off that he's a good actor, which he is, but like it's just the context is gone and it's not entertaining really.
Yeah, there's
this time around.
There's multiple scenes in this movie that are just purely for James McAvoy to switch between personalities and serve no other purpose in this film.
Yeah. And then Bruce Willis's character like doesn't have a whole lot of screen time, barely has any dialogue. Like he might have like less than 20 lines in the whole fucking movie. It's kind of ridiculous. And it's just not working, like these characters individually. And it sort of worked when all three of them were together with this sort of concept of maybe you guys are all delusional. But they like take so long to get there, and then they kind of dash that idea pretty quickly to go to their weird sort of anticlimactic ending that they start trying to get to. Yeah, it's really I think I'm really most disappointed by Bruce Willis's character being so underwhelming in this movie. I thought like he really what would have really helped and would have been like a quick fix is like to just not have his wife be dead. Was she dead? Because she wasn't dead in the Unbreakable, right? Like,
I don't,
if I remember correctly, because like
so.
She's the one that's like, she's kind of against all the like foolishness, while the son is like, no, you are a superhero, and like you could have kept that dynamic going. Maybe I can't remember fully how Unbreakable ends. If she is made to believe in the end, or if it's just him believing in himself.
God, there's so much time between now and then. Like when that movie came out, I'm
almost 20 years.
Yeah. So I really couldn't like. I don't think she was dead in the movie.
That would have felt.
Yeah, but
I think that would have helped though. Is just to have like, because his son is fully on board and embracing this sort of superhero delusion, and it would have helped to have like another character kind of grounding his side of the reality. Like maybe it's something he needs to hide from her because she knows that he's going out and doesn't approve of it, or doesn't believe that he's actually invincible or what. Like just something like that would have just given a little bit more to his character, other than just like, yep, I'm just a guy who runs a video store and walks around like talking to my son on the walkie-talkie, and now I'm in a mental hospital before you've even really gotten anything out of my character yet, and we're not going to develop my character at all here.
I do like the kind of dad and son duo, kind of, they own a security store. I kind of like the aspect of, they kind of have that like which one of the Nolan Batman movies where it's kind of like they're putting these security cameras all over and everything, and it's kind of like feeding back to them, and it's helping their operation and everything. It's kind of this invasion of privacy, and I don't know, there was a lot of interesting things I would have liked to like follow that thread a little longer. But they definitely, I was gonna say, I feel like he has a decent amount of dialogue, because that goes on for a little while.
But he doesn't really talk in those scenes. Yeah. Like he does the Bruce Willis version that just kind of like sits there and is like, yeah, well, okay.
Yeah, that's true.
And like I think part of the reason why the dialogue suffers in those scenes too is because it's two people in agreement. If you give him, someone who is against him, like a wife per se, then he has to defend himself, and that gives us like an insight into his mind. I just thought that would have been a much easier way to develop that character, rather than him just like only interacting with someone that he's in harmony with, and then when he's in the mental hospital, he doesn't really respond when people talk to him.
This movie also just doesn't have the fucking time, you know? It's another one of those things where
it's too many characters.
Mm-hmm. It kind of like builds upon like the idea that it's just kind of like, why do we need these cinematic universes? Kind of like, it's just like, but when you get all the characters together, you know, like it's just kind of like, even in like Avengers Infinity War, it's kind of like this emotional arc building over 20 something years, and then half the universe dies. And I mean, if you're a fan of the podcast, you'll know that like that left me cold. I was just kind of like, yeah, it sounds big in theory, but like when you're watching it, there's not really a lot going on. Like, it's just kind of like, yeah, I guess, you know, it's just kind of like, it's the same with this where like, yeah, like Split and Unbreakable are both great movies. It's just kind of like when you're trying to jam all these fucking characters in like another movie, you don't really have time to do anything. You're just trying to like do the bare minimum, which I think like a lot of like these characters get in this movie too. It's, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. I didn't totally mind the wife being dead, but it was just, you know,
It's just a weird statement in a context.
if she fucking, if the fucking wife's dead, that's fine by me.
I thought it was kind of cool that she fucking died.
She's a fucking nag anyway. No, it kind of gave them, I don't know, I feel like they didn't even totally use that to their advantage. Like, mom's dead, like, this is how we bond, and I don't know.
Yeah, they had the weird flashback.
Yeah.
Again, Bruce Willis by himself, no words. Robin Wright Penn was the wife in Unbreakable. I'm just looking up now. Jenna.
Yeah. Was she the one in the flashback or whatever?
I think they showed her from behind, so they might not have even been able to get her.
Huh. That's also kind of like Mr. Glass.
M. Night might not have been willing to dig in for another couple million to get Robin Wright Penn.
He's like, Jesus, my kids need to go to college. But yeah,
she might have been busy filming that awful season of House of Cards.
Yeah. Too. And then I don't know. I thought like what's it called? Mr. Glass's mother wasn't like totally convincing, or just at first I was like, I don't really remember anything about Mr. Glass, but I was just kind of like, oh, is that his wife? I was just kind of like, oh God, it's supposed to be his mom. Like,
yeah, is that the same?
I don't know. No idea.
Actress?
I do know that's the son grown up or whatever, which is so weird because like when you watch,
yeah, it is her.
When you watch like
Charlene Woodard,
when you watch like Unbreakable and you see that like little kid or whatever, you're kind of like, oh, this is just like a Haley Joel Osment kind of like stand-in or whatever, and then like he looks so different from like, you know, grown up Haley Joel Osment. I don't know. It's just I don't know.
Well, it's not Haley Joel Osment in the.
Oh no, yeah, but I was talking about when you watch Unbreakable, you're like, oh, this kid is supposed to be a stand-in for like, or he's just like a Haley Joel Osment look-alike kind of, and then like they look
You're
so
they both grew up to look different.
Yeah, they look radically different. Yeah. But yeah, like, let's get into spoilers though. I feel like we're deep enough, and we're starting to grasp for straws. In conversation. So if you have not watched Glass and you want to be surprised by that classic M. Night Shyamalan twist,
what a twist!
You can pause it right now and go watch it and finish this later. Or if you don't really care, you can continue listening because we're about to go into some spoilers. Yeah.
So I don't know if this is a spoiler. This is just the next thing on my mind.
I think I know what you're going to say.
The like Anya Taylor-Joy character coming back in this. I don't remember fully the ending of Split. Like I remember it was sort of a reveal that she Was it a reveal that she knew him, or just a reveal that he was from the Brooklyn Zoo, or the Philadelphia Zoo, rather? Sorry.
I don't think she knew him or the other thing. I think it was just they shared something over trauma, or they had a shared experience of trauma, I guess.
Because in this movie,
Uh-huh.
like, so she comes to visit him,
Right.
which, like, that's confusing at first. Like, is that a reveal, or is that like a twist? Like, is that
think that's
something that?
I don't know. That is the most confusing relationship of this movie. 'Cause
Yeah, like
it's
it
very
made me
Stockholm syndrome-y, yeah.
question if
Mhm.
there was something I missed in Split at
Right.
the end of it about them like knowing each other beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because she like calls him by his name, Kevin, and then like when she leaves after talking to him, and like the Sarah Paulson therapist character is trying to get her to like help out, she puts on a Philadelphia Zoo jacket. And that made me be like, and like they definitely like put it on in a way that
yeah.
you're like, oh, look, this is a jacket from the zoo. And I couldn't tell if that was like, did she work at the zoo with him and she knew him before he like went crazy with his split personalities, or?
I don't think so.
But then that doesn't even make sense, because in this movie they reveal that like the personality started when he was like younger, I think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe I was just waiting for that like zoo jacket to have some sort of payoff, and it just never happened. I think maybe that's some like weird sick detail that she's been like, I don't know, holding on to. I don't know, like holding on to kind of that camaraderie with that man who wanted to eat her.
Yeah, like
it's
it's
weird.
it's
And-
strange, and like the
Considering
it would have
end,
made it
too,
would have
is
made more
fucking
sense
weird.
if there was like, if there was a reason why she had to come talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
And because then she, like, when she goes to leave, Sarah Paulson, in like a really dumb scene, is like, physical touch is what
Yes.
is like
Mm-hmm.
helping him. It's a breakthrough. Like, you need to stay and touch him, basically.
Yeah.
And she, obviously refuses to help. But like the whole thing would make more sense if like she was brought there, sort of against her will in some way, didn't really want to be there, and then has this sort of accidental breakthrough with him, and the therapist just trying to convince her to help, and she doesn't want to, and then she kind of has a change of heart and comes around eventually, out of compassion for him, rather than like going there to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
of her own volition, seemingly compassionately, then for no reason not wanting to be compassionate and not wanting to help,
Right.
and then coming back around to that again. Like that sort of like valley of motivation is kind of weird to understand in an already like kind of muddy plot as far as her motivation is concerned.
Yeah, to the point where I kind of like, she like holds him as he dies at the end, and they have like a very emotional kind of dialogue between them. I think that was like the most like kind of strange scene of this movie for me. I was just kind of like, what is going on here? And like they just kind of needed a character for him to talk to while he was dying. It was just kind
Yeah.
of all a little weird. I don't know. I didn't totally know what to make of that. And I mean, besides, like, there was some sort of Stockholm syndrome, and that they really took comfort of each other both being victims of abuse, kind of. And, in both of their very lonely worlds, they kind of, again, took comfort in each other. I don't totally know how to explain that away. It's
And I
probably
thought
my
they
biggest complaint.
they should have given her more. I mean, because I think she's great as an actress.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought she was compelling in Split, and like I can see like wanting to bring her back, but I feel like you need to give her a better reason to be back in this. And like,
definitely.
I know in like the red letter media, review, they were talking about similarly feeling like it seemed like they were hinting that she was going to have superpowers that they were going to reveal at some point.
Oh yeah, they're like, please don't do this. Is this going to be a Marvel movie? Like, we're just going to like.
But I kind of would have been like more on board for that rather than like the dumb reason that she was in this movie to begin with. Like, and I thought this movie needed more excitement. I was not really entertained for a lot of it, and like something sort of schlocky like that would have almost been an upgrade.
Right, but I mean,
like her to just like, start like shooting fire out of her fist or something would have been like, oh, cool.
Right. I mean,
finally something of visual value.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they couldn't afford a lot of special effects. Their kind of top tier special effect is like the veins in Kevin or whatever, which are not great. His acting is pretty much the best special effects they could probably afford.
This movie looks every cent the $20 million budget that it is.
Which is I think, I don't know, which begs the question, like, would this film look better if it was like $100 million movie, like, or most superhero movies are actually a lot more than that, but it's just kind of I don't know. It kind of, but anyway, just to touch back on.
Well, I think if you went into it knowing that you had more than $20 million to play with, you might write like it seems like a movie written for a $20 million budget, or maybe just rewritten.
Right.
Who knows? But
I mean, there is essentially a purpose for all of these peripheral characters. Kind of, it's kind of like the. What's it called? It's the Mr. Glass line at the end where it's like the special edition showdown or whatever, and I guess his mom asked him like, "Oh, wasn't I?" or something along the lines of this, like where it was like, "Wasn't this supposed to be like a big showdown?" And he's like, "No, it's supposed to be an origin story," and it's like obviously the son is pissed. Like, he kind of watched his dad die, and then the Anya Taylor-Joy character is kind of pissed. I feel like it's kind of just, it's trying to imply that it wants to set something else up with kind of these vigilantes, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they don't have any superpowers.
Right. Yeah.
That's why, like, that would have made more sense, like, if they wanted to have that, like, that comic book sort of dialogue at the end and be like, oh, it's an origin story, and maybe the origin is Anya Taylor-Joy having some kind of powers, or
but again,
Bruce Willis's son is going to be her like man in the chair, and I have no idea what Samuel L. Jackson's mom is going to do.
Right.
Just the whole, like, I'm really not a fan of, like, they kept like setting up this whole they're building the tallest tower in Philadelphia, and it's opening on this day, and blah blah blah. And like, while I definitely couldn't fully picture them going there and doing some like big budget like fight scene there,
right,
it was just super underwhelming for them to not even come close to going there and to fight in the parking lot of this like mental hospital. It's like, oh god, like we can't even get like a set piece in this fucking movie. Like,
I don't know if I wanted a set piece. The parking lot is the best we can do.
I think it needed a set piece. I think this movie is dreadfully boring from start to finish, and like the climax is like so on brand for this movie for me. It's just like a boring, drab parking lot fight scene, like that, like big like show of power from James McAvoy's character is like flipping a cop car, like, and it's not even like he does it like with like super ease. He has to like really strain and be like to like lift the cop car.
Right.
It's just super underwhelming. Nothing about the fighting is cool. Like, Bruce Willis's character is not even really someone that's like made for fighting, because like it's not like Wolverine, where like, Wolverine's whole thing is that he heals quickly, but he also has these fucking blades in his hands, so it's cool to watch him fight. Whereas like Bruce Willis doesn't really have any like offensive to his superhero character. He's just kind of someone who can't really die.
Right, yeah.
It's like, oh, cool. Like, if the fight involves like a plane crash, he'll be all right.
Right, yeah. He
You
can
know,
just
there's
kind of
not really-
endure, right.
Yeah. And that's not even really part of his like fighting style. Like, it's not like we're watching him like take blow after blow after blow after blow after blow and just having the will to like keep getting up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just really just looks like two kind of boring men fighting in a parking lot.
It's also kind of the Osaka Tower, like whenever they showed it in some sort of like establishing shot, it didn't look great. I feel like that was like a giveaway that where I was like, we're never getting to that tower. It looks terrible.
Well, even if we
Yeah,
didn't go there, like I'm fine with that being sort of a like a red herring thing, but then we end up going somewhere else.
right.
You know, like they could have made another set piece somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, like even Split had a set piece being like the sort of underground of, I forget where they were.
Under the
Were they
Philadelphia
actually-
Zoo, yeah.
Under the, yeah, like that was a set piece in and of itself. It's there's a character to the setting that they're in, where there wasn't really any character to the front parking lot of a mental institution that has no cars in it.
Right, yeah.
Like an empty parking lot for some reason.
Yeah. The other thing that bothered me about the Osaka Tower was just kind of like, all the world's eye will be watching. It was just kind of like, I mean, I love Philadelphia, but it's like a second-rate city. Nobody cares about them building here. Like, you know, like we have a gigantic Comcast tower. Yeah, like,
Did you know I'm from Philadelphia?
I think something that was I kind of like the parking lot. I think it's I don't know. I kind of like that scene. I think a scene that's really sad is the last scene with the train terminal, because it's so empty. It's so sad. It's just kind of,
I mean, everything about the ending is kind of sad. Like,
oh yeah.
just in terms of like the budget of the movie and the choices in the script.
Right.
Like when they're having like the parking lot scene, and like even when they try to do these like twists in there, like they just come across as really corny in a bad way. Like Bruce Willis's son showing up and being like, "Oh, hey, like he created you, like he's at fault for that," and like that just whole thing comes across as very underwhelming. They don't build it up as a big climactic moment. It doesn't seem like it has like a huge effect on Split character.
I also didn't think that was it. Was that even a twist? I thought that was kind of implied in Split. Like after that all gets recontextualized, that like, oh, Kevin's dad died in a train crash when he was small. I feel like someone even says something about. I'm not sure, but it was just kind of like, yeah,
I don't
like,
think so.
that was Mr. Glass. You know, like I don't know. When somebody
Or if
said
they
that,
did,
yeah.
if they did say it, then it's before they show Bruce Willis, so you don't have the time to place it in that context.
Right. I guess I just like,
Because the Bruce Willis shot is literally the last shot of the movie.
right. Yeah, I thought it was just like implied, I guess. I don't know. So that didn't seem like even like a twist for me. I guess like the twist that we get is that Mr. Glass anticipates we haven't even talked about fucking Sarah Paulson. Obviously, she's not the world's worst psychiatrist who has 3 days to fix people. Like, obviously something's up. But what is up is fucking bizarre. She's part of a secret society that kills superheroes to like preserve the status quo. It's kind of like some weird fucking like Assassin's Creed order, and like they really hit you over the head with it at the end with like everybody's got like the 3-leaf clover shamrock tattoos. And
It feels like an Easter egg for something that doesn't exist.
yeah,
Like it feels like it's following the like footprints of, you know, other superhero movies and Marvel movies where they're doing these Easter egg shout outs to like fan favorite characters from the comics or from other movies.
mm-hmm.
But this is for something that nobody knows because it's just in M. Night Shyamalan's mind, as far as I know. Like it the way it's like presented made me think like, oh, is this supposed to be a twist because it's tying into an existing universe somewhere else that he didn't create? Or
Right.
like that's how like derivative the whole pacing of it feels. And it's so misplaced.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely, obviously, the camera work is very intentional, that he wants you to see all these, like, wrist tattoos or whatever. I don't know. And then it's like, all of that happens, and they have these dumb fucking, like, secret meetings in public restaurants, which is, like, ridiculous. I feel like everyone who reviews this movie, like, laughs about that. But then, like
does everyone who work at everyone who works at that restaurant, are they part of the society too?
I don't know.
Or do they just tell the staff to go in the kitchen for a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah,
are they like owned by are the restaurants owned by the society? The whole thing's just, it's really dumb.
Yeah, and it is. Yeah,
it's like a twist that nobody asked for. That's not exciting in any way.
Well, it's and then I think, just real quick, it's just like Mr. Glass anticipates their actions, and who even knows if he knows this kind of secret society exists. And then we have a scene where the security guy says Mr. Glass had like this stream the security footage to a website. And then, like, I don't know, I guess maybe he hires somebody to record that and then send the video files to, like, these peripheral characters.
Yeah.
And then, like, which I can kind of get, like, and, I mean, then they kind of, like, I don't know, blast it out on the internet, kind of, and make it go viral, you know. But
oh, God. The scene of them seeing it go... No, I don't want to cut you off in the middle of your thought. I'll remember this. I feel like you're about to say something.
Oh no, yeah, I know what you're about to say, but it's just like there's some grain of this that I'm kind of like, oh, you know, like that was his whole goal in Unbreakable. You know, like this footage is used to kind of like inspire people. Like he says, like it's terrible not to have a purpose. Like that was always the line that stuck out to me in Unbreakable, and I like that kind of like grain of this idea, but again, like this all feels so dated, just kind of like the viral thing I just said, and then the footage is really not that impressive. Like I feel like I'm okay with like it being a very underwhelming like parking lot fight, but like when you expect like this to go viral, like there's more impressive things that happen in like people are going to assume this is a marketing campaign, or like I feel like people are going to be like, yeah, I saw that, but have you seen like Free Solo? That was also very like you know, impressive. And it's also assuming that the world has like this childlike sense of wonder where they're all like as opposed to like them being like, oh, it's a mentally handicapped guy like having an adrenaline rush and flipping a car, or very very slowly bending metal. Like, you know, it's just it didn't totally, like their abilities weren't that noticeable, where I think they were able to like fly under the radar. Because of that, they aren't Marvel superheroes, and like I was okay with that in the parking lot, but I'm not okay with like footage of them going viral, because I don't think that's very likely. Like I think that would just sit at the bottom of Reddit and be like, oh wow, like these guys at a mental institution are bending materials out in the parking lot while the police shoot them.
Cool. Now, like I was gonna say, like the scene of it going viral is just like, oh God, like this is what like old people think going viral looks like. Like everybody has their phone like not on vibrate with like sounds coming out of it. They're all getting like the same kind of like notification sounds, and they're all looking at their phone at the same time, like as if like going viral is like all your friends just texting you like, you gotta check this out, it's so cool,
right?
Rather than scrolling through a feed and happening to see something that a bunch of people liked. Like I understand that doesn't really make for a great sequence, but neither did this.
Yeah, and it's also kind of again, it's like the least populated train station. Like it's just like there's so few people in it, and it's
that's Philadelphia.
And they're like all sitting there like there's
no New York
Penn
Penn.
People. Yeah. It's just so, it's such a random scene that I was like, ugh. It's just kind of like in Red Letter Media, I think Mike says something like kind of I wish it ended in the parking lot, and it was a little ambiguous, where it was like they all kind of die, and it was just kind of like, were those actually like were those like superpowers? Like, was that real, or were these just like delusional people? Like, you know. And I think it almost looks like it sets up for that, and then like I feel like M. Night like wanted to have like an awe-inspiring kind of like, I get it, like they really fucking play up that music, and like again there is like I can see like something where it's kind of like, believe in yourself, believe in the magic in the world, don't listen to naysayers, don't accept the status quo, you know, like follow your impulse. And they even kind of like have that kind of like trauma makes you stronger. Like they do carry over a lot of like these themes from the previous two movies, but it's just like, it doesn't work really. I hate that scene. It's just like I would love for like this like really just not great looking fight scene to like end and be like, what was this all for? Kind of, like just to have some sort of ambiguous ending instead of like trying to have this awe-inspiring like, oh, and then we like made it go viral on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a movie
with all them crying at the bench.
Yeah, it was just
or I guess it's really just Bruce Willis' son that's crying. Yeah, but you want to get in some ratings for this movie?
Yeah, let's get in some ratings.
Let me read the Rotten Tomatoes. On review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 37% based on 334 reviews, with an average rating of 5.11 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, Glass displays a few glimmers of M. Night Shyamalan at his twisty world-building best, but ultimately disappoints as the conclusion to the writer-director's long-gestating trilogy.
Nice. Well, I think I can go first. If you need some time to think about your score.
I mean, I don't have too much more to say, but I will allow you to go first.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've talked some shit on this movie. This is definitely not the sequel that I wanted. I would have even just been okay with, Split kind of being the last movie of this cinematic universe. But again, like I said, it's definitely doubling down on the themes of the previous two movies. I don't know. I really kind of wish something that I really just liked about the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Turn Off the Lights. Something I really liked.
Spider-Man, turn off the lights on your way out, please.
Wait, wasn't that the U2 like musical?
Turn off the dark.
Oh, turn off the dark.
Spider-Man, turn off the lights.
Getting all the titles.
We're trying to watch a movie in here.
But something I liked about that movie is that I think it had something to say about superheroes in general. I kind of wish this movie had more to say, especially when it's fucking dominating our culture right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like we just finished our past season, and we did Aquaman and Spider-Man Turn Off the Lights and Into the Spider-Verse, and then we just started this season, which we're starting off with Glass, which is essentially a superhero movie, and then we're doing Captain Marvel after that, and who knows what after that. But that's at least 4 superhero movies in a row. It's like, gosh, if there's, there has to be something more. I don't know. There has to be something you can offer up. I mean, like, it's so bizarre that our entire culture is enamored by something that at its core is just like pictures of cartoon men flying, like how the fuck do we get here? Like, it's just like so strange. Something I will say is M. Night is still just really great at building tension. There's a lot of scenes with just completely unrelenting tension by not cutting to the next scene. I still think he knows how, like, he knows that, like, cutting is going to release, like, some form of tension. And it's just, like, the scene where, I think one of the nurses is going to drop, like, the flashlight or whatever on Mr. Glass. I think I really, like, squirmed out of my chair with tension. I think that was, like, a very masterfully done scene.
That guy, who is that actor? He's like the best part of this movie. And
I have no idea.
He's gonna fuck. Well, I recognize him from a bunch of stuff. He's in Marvelous Miss Maisel, and he plays like a famous established comedian in that universe. And he's fucking fantastic in that show, like out of this world good. And he's really good in this. And I think he's also in The Deuce on HBO. Like, he's just been really knocking it out of the park lately. I feel like he's gonna fucking blow up soon.
Right, yeah, I don't recognize him at all. This was my first encounter with him.
Yeah, we're gonna see him in a lot more stuff, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, definitely. Again, I think this whole movie is better in concept than in execution. But I mean, I kind of rather watch this than most Marvel movies. I kind of like it for some of the warts it has. Like Venom, I think that's like the last movie we're talking about this, where it's refreshing, even though it is a problem that M. Night Shyamalan kind of only answered to himself. It's kind of nice to see something that wasn't test screened within an inch of its life, which is something that we often see in Marvel movies as well. M. Night Shyamalan, he just kind of like straddles the line of just brilliant and stupid, and I think it's very present in this film, where there's a lot of really great scenes and there's a lot of really stupid scenes. I mean, even I think like Rotten Tomatoes, like critics gave it like 37%, audience gave it 74%. It's very split. I mean, again, another note just about the script feeling so outdated. It's like the teenagers playing like Knockout, which I feel like was like a hot topic in like 2013. Like when they knocked out that home. It's just like, the script just feels so dated.
I totally forgot about that fucking scene in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then when he shows up at their home to like beat the shit out of a bunch of kids. Oh god, like it just kind of like, it takes everything and like reduces the stakes of everything. Like, oh hey, these kids were beating up on a homeless man, time to go beat the shit out of them.
I don't know. And then there's still just, I mean, it's also weird that they kind of like try to make Mr. Glass like a hero at the end, when like we've seen him like murder 500 innocent people. He slices like some guy's throat open during this movie. It feels muddled. I mean, the same thing with Kevin, where it's like, it's also hard to have sympathy for him when he like straight up kills and eats people in like two different movies. And then also Bruce Willis dying in a puddle at the end was like by like a faceless henchman. You don't even really get to see like the guy's face. I feel like they maybe should have like had him die in that like tank or something. Like, it's just like something that had been building for so long, and it was just kind of like, and then he died in a fucking puddle in a pothole. Like, just like weird.
There was something I did actually kind of like about that.
Yeah.
Just because it seemed kind of ironic, like a superhero dying in a puddle, but I feel like they didn't fully realize that aspect of it. Like, it was just kind of presented, and we as the audience were trusted to be like, oh yeah, this is kind of, that's not what you would expect.
Oh, right, yeah.
But they definitely could have played that up more.
And then I think, finishing up, I know there's a million afterthought notes, something that Jay said during the Red Letter Media, it's just kind of like, it's weird to be like, I think he said something along the lines of just like, am I happy that they took down like a threat that I didn't know existed until like 5 minutes ago? And like I've already seen like an entire trilogy. It's like, again, it's just something like, oh, and then at the end there's a secret society. It's kind of like, I have talked about this outside of this podcast, where it's just kind of like, I feel like it's such a cop-out lately, just to be like, and it was a cult the whole time, and it was a secret society the whole time, and it was like a group of elders that decide the way that society should work the whole time. And it's just kind of like, oh, well, that can dismiss everything, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. And the ending was just so overbloated. I don't know, though. I did enjoy this movie. I enjoyed seeing these characters again. I think if I had to like talk, like again, like I think reviewing is like, would you recommend this to people? I would lean more positive than negative, which makes me want to give it a 3, because I think it's nice to see all these characters again. A little biased because I'm always rooting for M. Night Shyamalan. And I think there's some masterful work in here, almost as much as there is just completely idiotic work in here. So yeah, I think I'm going to land on a 3. Because I would just ultimately, if somebody was like, should I see this? And I was like, if you like these previous 2 movies, I think this is worth seeing. So I would say it's worth seeing, definitely. I'm going to land on a 3.
Well, I mean, I come from a similar place as you, where it gives me no joy to tear M. Night Shyamalan apart, and I'm always rooting for him to return to form as an actual great filmmaker, because I don't really care how he does at the box office, even if it's own money, you know. And
right.
like, I don't really care about the fact that he keeps to get making movies. Or gets to keep making movies, sorry. The victory beers are getting to me. If he's going to keep making shitty movies like this, like,
right.
You know, I would almost rather he just kind of like hang it up and be like, oh, I'm going to spend some more time with my kids. And
right.
You can just think about how good my first like 6 movies were, rather than, you know, remembering how bad Split was, or Glass was, or After Earth, or Last Airbender, or all these shitty movies that he's been making for the past like 10 years now at this point. Like, I don't think this returns to any of the good things that I always liked about early M. Night movies. I think it betrays a lot of those good things. I don't think this is even a good sequel to the shitty movie that precedes it before, and Split. Like, and it's not a good sequel to Unbreakable, and it just feels unnecessary to have a sequel to either of those movies anyway. And it doesn't carry forward any of the things that worked for any of those movies, in my opinion. And it doesn't really bring anything new to the table, either as a superhero movie, or as the third movie in a trilogy, or as a sequel to any of those movies. It's just, this movie fell flat in so many ways. I was just so bored in the theater, and it didn't help that, I mean, part of it is because we're reviewing this kind of late.
Right.
We're kind of playing catch up after we're now out of the Oscar season and done with the handies and all that. This was really one of the top grossing movies of the beginning of the year. But there was literally nobody in my theater when I saw it. So I was just like sitting there. I bought like a sandwich from Regal, which was okay, but I didn't feel so great afterwards. But it just kind of like added to the experience of like, oh God, like there's like a term that I'm going to introduce for this that is specific to only just me, and I'll explain it. But this is like a Newton Theater movie for me. And what I mean by that is that there was a theater in my town when I grew up that had like 2 screens, and they didn't get like all the movies, but they weren't like an art house theater either. They just didn't really have the pull to get like everything.
Right, like an independent theater that's not playing independent movies. Yeah. Like
but it wasn't like
yeah.
It wasn't like a college theater. It wasn't like a boutique theater or anything like that. It was a legit movie theater, but it wasn't part of a franchise or a chain. It was just independently owned, and they tried to get the best they could get, and they didn't really play up to, like you would probably smartly do now, be like, oh, let me get like the, you know, foreign language movies that the bigger theaters might not be playing as much, or the indie movies that might not be playing in as many theaters, and we'll just kind of capitalize on that rather than showing on a small screen the bigger movies that are playing. But there was like a certain type of movie that I feel like I always saw at the Newton Theater, and they would be like again, like not independent, not art house movies, but they were not like big budget movies either. They were just the type of movies that I, for some reason, was drawn to as a kid, I guess, just because usually they had like some kind of actor that you knew, or like the trailer looked promising, and then you would just go see it in the theater and it would just be fucking boring. And I just remember seeing so many movies at that theater that I was just kind of like, oh God, like I'm like 11 years old and I know that this fucking sucks. Like,
Yeah.
it's just boring and nothing is like holding my attention, and you just kind of get out of the theater and you're just disappointed that you like wasted your time on it. And that's what, to me, a Newton Theater movie is, and that's what like Glass felt like. It felt like being in the Newton Theater again at 11 years old, watching. I can't even think of some of the movies. There's that one with like the biggest one that comes to mind is that one with Julianne Moore about like her kid that disappeared, and everyone's telling her that it never existed. It's like The Forgotten or something like that.
Oh yeah, I think I vaguely remember what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it just like it even has like, because if I'm not mistaken, I think this was shot on film, and it just kind of has that like quality to it. Because a lot of the movies that we were seeing back then, that they weren't small budget, they could afford to shoot on film, but they weren't like big action movies, and they just were not ever very well done. But yeah, all of that is to say that I did not appreciate much about this movie at all. There's no action to it. I don't think they did a good job of adding much drama to it. It's not really a horror movie. There's not a lot of tension that I perceived. I didn't find myself being too creeped out by any of it. Like I felt more scared by the trailer for Us that played before it. Which is pretty creepy to watch in a like empty theater by yourself. But yeah, I think I'm gonna give it. I'm torn between 1 finger and a half finger. I think I'll give it 1, just because I don't think I can like completely bash the cinematography. Because it like even if I think that some of the set pieces aren't great, and I like set pieces in like quotes because they aren't really played up as set pieces, and I think the locations aren't the greatest. Like I think the framing is still there, and like you're saying, I think some of the cutting is still there. And I do think there are like I said before, I really liked that one orderly there. I looked him up. His name is Luke Kirby. So I would look out for more stuff from him. And then I thought the other orderly was really funny too, just in the writing. Like I loved him talking to the security guard and being like, "Yeah, man, but are you trying those multivitamins I taught you about?"
Yeah.
It was just kind of nice, like throwaway dialogue. But that's really all the positive stuff I can sort of say about this movie. I think all the acting, even in the instances where I think it's probably as good as it was before, it's put in the wrong context. Like Bruce Willis is probably acting the same in this as he was in Unbreakable, but it worked in the context of Unbreakable because it was this like slow burn family drama type movie. So like him, with a lot of silence and sitting there contemplative and not really talking a lot worked for the pacing of that movie. Whereas in a movie like this, where we're now in an established superhero universe and the stakes are a lot higher, and we have all these other characters that we have to split time with, like for Bruce Willis to sit there quiet in any scene is kind of just counterproductive.
Right. And
doesn't really display much of worth. And likewise for James McAvoy in this, I think he's probably acting just about as well as he was in Split, but like we said before, in the context of Split, where he's this captor who's got you held hostage and he's just switching between all these different personalities and you don't know which one you can trust and which one you can't, that really works and that adds a lot of tension to the movie. Whereas this is just kind of like, okay, I'm glad you got like another like couple of scenes for your like acting reel for whatever project you want to get next, James, but like
right.
It's not really benefiting the movie in any way. And I do actually think Samuel Jackson's pretty good in this, but they barely give him anything, and for half the movie he has to pretend that he's in a coma.
Yeah.
So the movie probably could have benefited from him being a bigger part of the movie and like living up to the movie's actual title. But yeah, I mean, I could go on forever with how much I think this movie just failed on a lot of its premises and just didn't really deliver in any meaningful way. But yeah, I'll settle on one finger. I could definitely go to a half finger. I'm going to be generous because there were some things I enjoyed about it, and you already gave it a 3, so I don't need to go super low.
Right.
It's gonna even out. So 3 and a 1, that'll come to 2 fingers, even right down the middle, obviously.
Nice.
For us, so a below average movie to start off 2019. Yeah, baby.
It's only going up from here. I saw Captain Marvel. It's the perfect movie. Tune in next week.
I don't want to spoil anything, but 5 fingers. Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
don't know if we really have too much to plug.
we don't really.
Handies are out. You can go check those out. We worked really hard on them. We're really proud of them.
Our live episode that we did at the Everything is Awesome Headstrong Comedy Festival.
That's out. Yep.
That's out.
We have our reaction to the Oscars.
Uh-huh.
If you're still looking for some juicy gossip about the Oscars almost a month later, you can check that out. Yeah, the only other thing I can really think of is if you haven't listened in a couple of weeks, you might have missed the fact that we are switching to a bi-monthly schedule now. So our next episode won't be out next week. It'll be out the week after that. We'll kind of just be going every other week from here on out.
Yeah.
But we should have some announcements in the future about what's going to be going on in those intermediate weeks between episodes. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, join the Facebook group. Like us on Facebook. Check out our YouTube. All that good stuff. HowManyFingersPodcast.com for everything.
Check it all out. Give us a
Check it out.
Give us a good rating on iTunes. Haven't said that one in a year or two.
It's a deep cut.
Yeah.
Call back.
Man. Yeah. So I guess that's it. That
all right.
Signs us out for the first episode of 2019, or at least first movie that was released in 2019 that we've reviewed.
The 2019 season.
The 2019 season, yes.
What is this? Is this our 4th season or?
I think so. Just
No,
because we
5th.
started at the end of. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we did the short 2015, then 2016, 2017, 2018, and now we're in 2019. Season 5, baby.
Damn, baby.
5 seasons in a movie. Just like Crashing. Crashing couldn't make it to 5 seasons. Did you watch the final season?
Of Crashing?
Yeah.
No,
What is now the final season?
it lost me around the 2nd season. I don't know. Just lost me.
Yeah, I mean the 3rd season, love me some Pete Holmes, but I'm not surprised that HBO canceled it at all. But anyway, what is this, a review of TV now?
No, you silly goose. It's only movies.
No, you fucking idiot. All right, we'll catch you guys in 2 weeks for our review of Captain Marvel. So stay tuned for that.
Yep.
It's been so long. How do we sign out of episodes?
I think you said, signing out for How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? My name's Joe.
And I'm Mike.
And yeah. So long.
And signing out for... Bye.